Welcome back to the Ed Show, and thanks for watching tonight. Well, Arizona Senator John McCain still in denial, still fighting against change. He is stubbornly standing in the way of repealing Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and to make matters worse, he keeps moving the goalposts. Here are McCain's previous requirements for getting rid of the policy.
The day that the leadership of the military comes to me and says, Senator, we ought to change the policy, then I think we ought to consider seriously changing it. I would welcome a report done by the Joint Chiefs of Staff based solely on military readiness, effectiveness, and needs, and not on politics, that would study the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy, that would consider the impact of its repeal on our armed services, and that would offer their best military advice on the right course of action.
Well, now he's got what he wanted. The Pentagon study is done, and military leaders are strongly urging repeal.
I'm convinced that repeal of the law governing Don't Ask, Don't Tell is the right thing to do. Back in February, when I testified to this sentiment, I also said that I believe the men and women of the armed forces could accommodate such a change, but I did not know it for a fact. Now I do. And so what was my personal opinion is now my professional opinion. I would not recommend repeal of this law if I did not believe in my soul that it was the right thing to do for our military, for our nation, and for our collective honor.
So the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff says it's a fact that repealing Don't Ask, Don't Tell is the right thing to do. But McCain is still blatantly disregarding the military leadership he claimed to respect. Now he's saying the Pentagon, well, they didn't do the study correctly.
What I want to know, and what it is the Congress's duty to determine, is not can our armed forces implement a repeal of this law, but whether the law should be repealed. Unfortunately, that key issue was not the focus of this study.
John McCain is sadly out of touch. His attitude on this is absolutely disgraceful. For more, let's bring in openly gay Congressman Jared Polis of Colorado. Congressman, good to have you with us tonight. Have we done everything we have to do to make this happen, to have this rule repealed in the military, in your opinion?
Well, you know, Ed, this was an obvious call in the first place. You don't have to be straight to be able to fight for our country. It doesn't make any sense. No other Western country has this. I mean, you can do study after study. They're all going to show the same thing, that of course gays and lesbians are capable of serving in the military. And of course the military is a professional institution that is up to the challenge of allowing them to serve, like every other institution in society, like United States Congress, where there's 4 gay people, where they're like our police forces. I mean, this is just a bizarre discussion we're having. You can keep coming out with data. It's all going to point in the same direction. It's time to allow gays and lesbians to serve in the military.
Is this the civil rights issue of our time?
Well, I hope it's just a civil rights issue of the next week, because I hope we can get this thing done. I hope Senator McCain doesn't stand in the way. They just need a couple more votes in the Senate. It passed the House overwhelmingly. We had support from Republicans and Democrats. Overwhelmingly passed the House, the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. So let's get this darn issue done here in the next few weeks. I mean, this is just an absurd issue that's time is long since passed.
Pew Research poll says 58% of the American people are in favor of repealing Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Senator McCain on record nitpicking pretty much the Pentagon study. This is what he had to say about the way it was conducted.
In addition to my concerns about what questions were not asked by this survey and considered in this report, I'm troubled by the fact that this report only represents the input of 28% of the force who received the questionnaire, including completely leaving out numerous members of the military in combat areas. That's only 6% of the force at large.
Congressman, does he have a point there?
You know, I've talked to friends of mine in the military, constituents. They said the military's never asked for their opinion about what's on the menu, any of the other conditions. This has been the broadest reaching model for input from members of the military on any major decision. I mean, and again, and of course you can ask more, but any statistician can tell you can easily model the attitudes of everybody from the significant number that were surveyed. Of course, the men and women in the military overwhelmingly support allowing gays and lesbians. They have gay and lesbian friends, sometimes brothers, sisters, cousins. I mean, this is just a stigma that maybe a few old white male senators have, but the men and women of the military are long past this.
What do you say to the thousands that have been put out of the military. How would you implement them back in as soon as possible? And, of course, when you look at our resources, we could certainly use the help.
Well, let me speak to the men and women that were wrongfully discharged under this policy. I do hope that you consider a career in the United States military after we repeal the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy. You will have every kind of opportunity, no more or no less, than every other American to serve your country with honor and with openness.
Congressman Jared Polis, good to have you with us tonight. Thanks so much.